Well, tonight we're going to begin our CHAZZARAH from Kufay. So hopefully between this week, next week, and the week after, we'll finish Kufay, Tzadik Aleph, Tzadik Beis. So let's just zoom out a little bit and see what we're doing and why we started from Kufay, and then we went to Tzadik Aleph, and then we moved to Tzadik Beis, and then we'll start to zoom in. So we'll remember that we begin in Kufay, which is in the laws of Taruvos. Taruvos means mixtures. And primarily, that's the halachas of the mixing of kosher with non-kosher food items. And the question at hand is built on the principle of tam ke'ikr, that the flavor of something is as if the thing itself is there. And therefore, obviously, if you can see the non-kosher food that's in your mixture, of course, you can take it out. Question is, if it leaves behind any flavor. Because if it leaves behind any flavor, then tam ke'ikr, the fact that you can taste some of that non-kosher food, is as if the non-kosher food is there and thus forbidden. Yeah. Why you want to ask something? Oh, yeah, no, recording. Thank you. And that's the root of Taruvos, to figure out when and how flavor is emitted from one food item to another food item. In the case of Taruvos, it's between something non-kosher into something that is kosher. And that's kufay, which begins din isser shenafal teicheter, the law of that which is forbidden that falls into something that's permissible, and you cannot identify it. Or maybe you could, but the question is, does it leave behind any flavor once it's removed? Or if you can't identify it, is the flavor still there? That took us to Tzadik Aleph, where the same principle is applied, but this time to Basa B'Chalov. Right, Tzadik Aleph. Oh, not Tam Ki'ikr, but the question of how is flavor transferred? Because if you don't see the milk, but you taste the milk, tam ke'ikr, and it's as if the mixture is there, right? Din basa b'chol, the law of milk and meat that's been mixed, right? It's the same principle, tam ke'ikr, but in the mixture between milk and meat, which has its own details, considering that milk and meat are inherently kosher, but they're only when they're mixed together they become not kosher. But the principle still remains that we have to identify the methods by which flavor can be transferred from one item to another, from milk to meat, from meat to milk, from something non-kosher to kosher. That's Tzadik Kofei to Tzadik Aleph. Then Tzadik Beis takes us a little bit farther into that, which talks about ways in which the mixture of milk and meat together can amplify the problem because of chanan, right? Where a piece of meat itself becomes non-kosher, and now sorry, chaticha nas the piece becomes non-kosher, so it absorbed milk, it becomes non-kosher. Okay, and that is, at least to a large degree, that's what Tzadik Beis is all about. So this is our flow. So we're going to begin at Kofei. I'm going to read inside and translate. I encourage you to follow along, and I'm going to read and translate. And I obviously reviewed it before I am reviewing it here with you now, but it's possible that there are some details that we spoke about when we first learned, and I'm not remembering now. So if you have anything, make it a group effort and chime in with what you might remember that we had learned when we learned it the first time. So I'll read and translate, but keep your ears and antennas up. So Kufay, chapter 105, Din Isser Shanafalet, Taricheter, the law of that which is prohibited, that falls into that which is permitted, and we have 14 sifim in this chapter. Aleph, sif 1. Isser Shanasarim Heter, the first way we're going to identify as a possible flavor transfer as a possible agent of transfer, as a proper agency of transference. Is that the right way to say it? Proper conduit of flavor transfer. The first item we're going to identify is pickling, namely food items that sit in water. And when it sits in water long enough, the pores open and the flavors move around. So therefore, Isser Shenashem Heter, that which is prohibited, that soaked, literally pickled, together with that which is permitted. Me'esleis, and it sat in this water for 24 hours. It's soinen, even if it's completely cold. So it's water, no flavoring, 24 hours, and cold, mikri kavush. This is called kavush, this is called pickling. Varehu kimavushal. And this is just like cooking. And cooking is the ultimate method of flavor transference in which all flavor transfers everywhere. That's what mavushal is. Mavushal, when things are cooked together, all flavors transfer everywhere. Says the Shulchan Aruch, says the Din, that soaking something for 24 hours has the same effect as cooking, and therefore, v'nesar kula, everything becomes prohibited. Because the prohibited flavor is now suffused throughout the entirety of your bath, including your kosher food that was in there. But any less than 24 hours, ba'adocha sagi, it's enough to rinse it off. Because no transference occurs. Right? We spoke about this at the time. Exactly 24-hour mark, the transference occurs. We spoke about this. The transference goes slowly, but the flavor isn't dense enough to cause any issue, and only at 24 hours does it come a problem.
You really have like 24 hours?
24 hours, yeah.
I'm saying 23 hours and 20 minutes.
Correct.
What, 40 minutes is going to make a difference?
That's what we're just saying. I guess to draw the line, draw somewhere. We spoke about this at the time.
Yeah. Like, I know you have to draw the line, but I'm saying
it could be 48 hours. I'm trying to say is that they know after some time it happened.
It happened.
They just said they made their thing.
They drew the line at 24
They tasted
it.
it.
We spoke about this at the time.
No kids.
I'm tasting it
Well, you can do it with non-kosher, with kosher foods, and then you can see, right?
Yeah. Unless it's sharp, though.
Say again?
Sharp flavors are good.
Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. We'll get to that in a minute. Sharp, not shark. We'll get to that in a minute. Haga says the Rama, whenever we reach the point. In this case, it's 24 hours in water, and soon there are other times when kavosh kamavoshal can happen. But whenever we say kavosh kamavoshal, whenever we get to a point where pickling is treated like it's cooking, therefore, even that which is protruding above the water level, the liquid, is also forbidden because it's fully like cooking, right? This reflects something we spoke about in Tzaddik Aleph and Tzaddik Beis, right? When something is protruding aboveward, does all the flavors that is in the portion of meat that's above the stew line is called part of the stew or separate from the stew, right? Similar discussion here. And actually, the Ramah there was different than the Ramah here. Here is more stringent. You may remember that. But the bottom line is that when you reach the point that the soaking is an agent of transference at the same level as cooking, then that transference happens even to those pieces of food that are protruding above the line of the water. Because through this process of pickling, shilamata, that's a blow, which is considered a cooking, mefafeya, it causes the flavor to, fafeya means like, diffuse, thank you. Lamaila, upward, in the food that's protruding upward, kamayba bishul, just like when it comes to food. And it's just when it comes to cooking. I mean, this is something you can test. Take a roast, fill up your the pot with gravy only halfway, and then let it sit there. Even if you don't baste it, it'll be a little dry, but the flavor of that gravy will still be at the top of the meat. So it travels upward, right? So it says the Ramah, same thing happens. Sorry. So in cooking, it'll happen much sooner, but the same thing, Ramah says, the same thing that happens with cooking happens with pickling, because pickling is being treated like flavor, like cooking to the nth degree. Okay, we had something till it gets to the point of boiling, right? Oh no, that was something else. That was sharp. But yeah, we treat the once it gets to the point of boil, the heat of boiling, then it does, right? And it's instant. Yeah.
Instant, yeah.
But it has to get to the point of boiling, right?
Well, when something's super hot, that's when it happens instantly.
Okay,
Otherwise, we said it was 18 minutes.
Sorry?
This is not.
Otherwise, we talked about 18 minutes when it wasn't like, when it's not at that point.
That's in a minute. That's 18 minutes is coming up soon.
The
shark food, yes. Yeah. That's correct.
We said that was the same thing as if it's not, we equated that to as if it's not fully
If it's not fully cooked yet. Right? That was the comparison, yeah. Okay. The Yesh Mekilin says that another opinion are those that are lenient, the Mashabachutz. There are those that are lenient with respect to that which protrudes above the line of pickling. The suffix kavosh aser. When you are in doubt about the success of the pickling, namely, the way the Taz puts it, we know that it's pickled, but we're not sure if it actually went for 24 hours. We don't know when it started. Maybe it's 24 hours, maybe it's been 23. We're not sure. In those cases, we say aser is prohibited. Why is that? Because tam ki'ikr, is a biblical notion. It's not a rabbinic notion. It's a biblical notion that the flavor of something is like the thing itself. So we're in doubt as to whether or not there's non-kosher flavor in this food, is basically what it comes down to. And if that's the case, it's a biblical thing. Maybe there's non-kosher flavor in here. Prohibited. And therefore, when you're in doubt with respect to milk and meat being pickled together, we go lenient. Why? Kind of give the answer. Why?
Only with cooking is Minatorah.
Ah, because the only prohibited mixing of milk and meat biblically is cooking in a pot, full tafshel. Any other form of mixing milk and meat is rabbinic to begin with. So even if it's true that the flavor, that you're in doubt as to whether or not the milk flavor is diffused into that meat, but the fact that the meat has the milk flavor in this instance, even if it does have it, it's only rabbinic. Meaning, even if you're 100% certain that the kavush was 24 hours and the milk flavor is totally in that meat, even if you're 100% sure, that's only prohibited rabbinically. Because biblically, the only prohibition of mixing milk and meat is when it's cooking. And therefore, when you wouldn't eat it if you're certain that the flavor is there, but if you're in doubt, you're allowed to be lenient. You're not sure if the flavor is in there. You're not sure if it was 24-hour pickling. So because it's only rabbinic doubt, because even if it was a problem, it's only also rabbinically, therefore you can be lenient. Clear? Okay. Because biblically speaking, it's only prohibited, milk and meat is only prohibited biblically when it's cooked completely and fully literal cooking, as the verse says, one should not cook kid in its mother's milk, invoking the action of cooking. Base. If it has been pickled in brine is salty water, or in vinegar, which is sharp. So now the diffusing process happens much quicker because the pores are open much quicker in vinegar and salting, right? That's why melicha is going to be part of our learning, because melicha is all about opening the pores to get the blood out, which is happening here. Salty water makes the pores open, transference of flavor happens quicker.
They translate it as the pickle is just emitted by food through salt. I mean, literally doing
juice emitted by food through, sorry?
Juice emitted by food through salting. Does that mean
that's what they describe? We spoke about this at the time. Remind me. We spoke about the time. What did we say? Remembers? Good point. Because we did 1 second. Sorry. There was some issue I had with that.
Because
translation.
The translation. What was the word?
By reading it by this, I would think it means from melicha.
No. This doesn't mean blood. It means, let's say you salted fish and now you have juice. That juice
is considered
is brine. It's brine, which it's
But from meat,
salty water directly, is that also?
But it's not exclusively that, right? It could also just be salted water.
I believe it could be salty water as well.
Yeah,
remember,
we said if we put it in a vinegar mixture to soak overnight, that does it.
Right, but what if it's salty water?
What's the difference of cooking vinegar?
I think that's just like a common example at the time or something, no?
Maybe, but sear, it's the best of my knowledge, it's brine, and brine.
Or if it's in the summaries, but there's the difference between like the salted water. There's the difference between cooking vinegar and cleaning vinegar. The heavy.
Okay, we'll get to that soon. Yeah, that's right. We'll get to that. Yeah, if the vinegar is lighter.
We talk about the dressing.
Yes, very good point. Did we mention that?
No, but
yes.
But for here,
the vinegar has to be so sharp.
Yeah.
But I'm saying for here, salted water. Then how would that?
It has
to be extremely salty.
It has to be very salty.
Very salty.
Like the sea ocean, like you take the ocean, the Dead Sea.
That's too salty. Yeah. Okay. Okay. To the best of my knowledge, that was the answer.
No, but it has to be like really like more salty.
Okay, so if it's in sear or vinegar, which we said has to be very, very sharp vinegar, so sharp that you wouldn't use it on a dressing salad, or if it's pickled long enough that would take for water to sit on a stove, the artiach and get hot, the yaskal is vashal and begin cooking, or actually that item, the amount of time it would take for that item to sit on the pot and start cooking, it's considered cooking. It's considered cooked and the flavor transfers. So that we said was between 18 or 22 minutes, right? Different opinions how long that was, either 18 or 22 minutes. if non-kosher food and kosher food are sitting in a sharp liquid, brine or vinegar, for 18 to 22 minutes, then it's considered cooked and the flavor transfers and your food is not kosher. With pachas mishir zeh, but if it's set for less than that, it was less than 18 minutes, lo nesar ela kadei klipa. There is some transfer of flavor, but not enough to penetrate all the way in, and therefore you only have to remove the surface layer.
How far down is considered the surface layer?
Mamish appeal.
Yeah.
We learn mamish appeal. I take a peeler and peel, right? Whereas 23 hours in water and only be rinsing. Right? We also spoke about the time. We had a whole discussion in the Taz about whether or not we say kovosh by vessels. Right? If the food sits in vessel for 24 hours, does the vessel now contain that flavor and then later diffuse it into food? We had some that said, well, 24 hours later, it's already nice and of gum, it's already a negative flavor. Others argued no, because it diffuses slowly. Right. It's not a negative flavor 24 hours later, right? That was a discussion we had.
How do we leave it off?
I think it's the best knowledge is machlokes, right? We left it kind of unanswered because that was the whole discussion on the
like in my mind.
That was the whole question on the noon on the sherry casks. Right, where the Taz made the argument that if it can be a positive flavor,
right? Or
even if you're relying on the fact that it's a negative flavor 24 hours later, in the case of a sherry cask, you can't argue it's a negative flavor.
No,
it's a positive flavor. That's the whole point, right? So we left it kind of in the discussion realm.
But I was gonna say, I'm saying more on the.
Yeah.
I'm saying more on the.
One at a time. Yeah, sorry.
On the food, like the food versus the actual liquid that's like being soaked in the thing. I'm saying.
The question is the container.
Container. No, I'm trying to say is that if the food was treif, I feel like it'd have less of effect on the container than the actual brine, than actual mixture is treif.
Well, it doesn't. Okay, let's just say. Well, it doesn't matter.
Soaking into the actual.
Oh, I hear what you're saying. I don't know if it matters though, because once you get to level of cooking, the flavor is diffused equally everywhere, right? Okay. So once you have 24 hours of soaking or 20 hours of vinegar soaking, the flavor is diffused all the way through. It doesn't matter which one is the treif one, whether it's the brine that's treif or whether it's the food that's inside the brine that's treif.
Doesn't matter.
The food's diffused everywhere anyway. I don't think it would matter. Okay. Unless you have 60 times the ratio, maybe, but otherwise,
I mean, you could actually.
You could have 60 times the ratio, sure. Okay, what do you want to say something? No? Okay. Okay. Chaim shel Krishin, Beis. Wait, that was all out, yeah. Beis, Chaim shel Krishin. Chaim shel Krishin, a heat that is in the original vessel in which that heat was produced. So it's the Krishin, it's the first vessel. Shayatzel is boy. That's hot enough that the hand recoils from it. Mevashal, it already reached the point of cooking. And this is the answer to your question. Once it hits Yatzel boy, it's cooking right, it's cooking completely. And forbids everything inside. That's the ultimate transference of flavor is cooking. And once the pot reaches the level of Yatzel boy, or the pot still has the level of Yatzel boy, either way. Whether you started off cold and you cooked it up to Yatzel boy, now when it's Yatzel boy, flavor is diffused everywhere. Or it was on the flame, you took it off the flame, it's slowly cooling down. If it's still Yatzel boy, it's causing diffusion all the way through because it's Klirishon. Literally means hand recoils from it. We learned that it was 34 degrees something like that. What does it in the summers probably? Something like that. Well, it was a degree he gave us. Yeah? It's probably in the summary it tells you what the exact degree is. So Va'isha Kula, and we forbid everything if there's kosher last one. If there's kosher and non-kosher food in there, the flavor will be diffused completely and everything is forbidden. But heat that's in a second vessel. Doesn't cause cooking. Even if the klisheni was hotter than your original klidusha. Remember that, right? Even if your klisheni was hotter than your original klidusha. Yes?
Just because it made it klisheni.
Because it made klisheni. So then it doesn't cause cooking. So if it doesn't cause cooking, what would be the halacha?
That's so ridiculous, though.
What would Sorry?
That's so ridiculous. It's hotter.
Good question. And rationalizing this particular principle in halacha, which goes to the laws of Shabbos as well, is not an easy one. But I suggested when we learned it the first time that maybe we're relying on Isaac Newton's principle of motion. Everything that's in motion stays in motion. So when something's in a klirusha, it's kind of what Tosfos says, not exactly, because Tosfos talks about the walls of the vessel working to preserve the heat. Whereas in a klisheni, the walls of the vessel are working to cool the heat. So long as you're in a klirishon, even though you're technically getting cooler, the active motion is let's try to stay hot. Whereas once you're in a klisheni, even if you're technically hotter, the active mode is let's try to get cold. That's maybe a way to understand. It's a Tosfos that mentions something similar. And if you maybe throw in Isaac Newton's principle, it's only my only personal suggestion. You can throw it out if you don't like it. But anyway, not that I understand Isaac Newton's laws of motion so well, but it works. So suggest because the Tosfos does say because of the walls, that the walls of the vessel are cold and therefore it's projecting coldness in, even though it's technically hotter. Whereas in the Klirishon, the vessels are hot, or at least it has the same heat as the food inside, and it's trying to preserve the heat. That he does say. So I think with the laws of motion, it kind of makes sense, maybe.
Oh,
yeah.
We didn't mention this, but for the 18 minutes, it's less than 18 minutes. You have to take off the
peel. I mentioned that.
Oh,
mentioned that. Yeah.
Okay.
No. Anything less than 18 minutes, you have to peel. After 18 minutes, the whole thing is awesome. Okay. That's correct. If it's less than 24 hours, very good. So now, Shulchan Aruch gave us the first view that Kli Sheni is not mavashal. So if it's not mavashal, what does it do? It doesn't cook. So the fusing of flavor doesn't happen all the way through. What does happen? Machlokes. Some say shigam eine mavlit umavli. Some say it doesn't even cause exfoliation or absorption. And therefore, what would you have to do if you follow this view? What would you do?
Do anything then.
Take it out and rinse it off. Because it's not cooking and it's not causing exfoliation or absorption. But Yeshim, others say, nonetheless, even though it's not causing cooking, it still will exfoliate and absorb. And therefore, the surface layer is forbidden. You have to peel off the edge. And therefore, it's appropriate to be stringent, at least in the first instance, and peel off the food that have come in contact with a klisheni. But post factum, mutter b'loy klipa, it's enough to, and post factum would be permissible even without peeling it, and rinsing it alone would be enough. And then the parenthesis says, see tzadik beis and tzadik hey, with respect to pouring from a klisheni, that we learned in tzadik beis. Okay, that was beis. Any commentary here on beis before we go to gimel? Any commentary? None. We actually learned from the Taz. The Taz quotes the Rashal. That what?
I think if it's like an object, right? It's like a piece of meat, even if it's a clean.
You know what do we say?
Even if it's a klisheni, right? If it's hot, we consider
that if it's even if it's klisheni, we treat it like that even if it doesn't cook all the way, but it'll still absorb all the way. That's correct. So we learned that Rashal's stringent with respect to klisheni, that the entire thing should be forbidden if it's above Yatzel Lesboy. Right? When it comes to Shabbos, we kind of do it that because on Shabbos we go to klishlishi to cook, right? Not klisheni. Not everybody does that. Or from Yidden, I think some Sfardim we don't do whole klishlishi business because klisheni is not mavashal, right? Whereas we're stringent and we say klisheni is even if it's not mavashal, so it causes exfoliation, so we don't do it. Okay. Who? You're asking? You're saying? Yeah. I'll tell you that because klisheni.
They've done klisheni. I've started to do klisheni.
Not klishlishi.
My mother does it.
Klisheni, not klishlishi.
Yeah,
that's right.
We do klishlishi.
Yes.
Yeah, we take from the vessel, pour it into a cup.
That's sheni, and that's shlishi.
No,
that's shlishi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Burger
is rishon, cup is sheni, next cup is shlishi. Yeah, there are some who do just do klishi because klishi is not mavashal, so they're fine. That's it. And more power to them. As you learned from the Ramah and then Mechaber. But as we see from the Taz, he quotes the Rashal, which says that we treat klisheni that's above Yatzav boy as if it does cook, and we forbid everything. And that was echoed again in Sadik Beis, and we learned about klisheni there as well.
So that's the wheel that klisheni, which is harder than Yatzav boy.
It does cook.
It cooks also.
Forbidden, correct. both for Shabbos and for Taruvus.
So the question
Are they
is,
going to ask us on the test for Shabbos or no?
No, I'm just telling you. For the most part, we apply these principles across the board. Not always, for the most
but
part.
if it's not yet let us go with blessing that.
And it's fine. Whereas a Kli Rishon, funny you mention that, because a Kli Rishon, certainly when it comes to the laws of Shabbos, even if it's below Yatzlas, but if it's still warm, we won't necessarily cook in it. Even though it's below Yatzlas, but because it's in a Kli Rishon. Interesting enough, yeah. Good point you mentioned. Okay. Any other commentary before we go forward? Yeah, okay, we're doing a group effort. If you remember from the Sifim, you throw it on. Gimel. What?
Yeah, and I just came from an event, so I'm just a bit tired. But
No worries. No pressure. Just throw it out there. Nafal iser cham cham. A hot prohibited item falls into or onto a hot permitted item. To Kli Rishon. It's hot because it's the original vessel. To Kli Rishon. Oh yeah, filu iser tzainin. Or next scenario, cold prohibited. Cold iser prohibited. Latoy cheter cham that falls into kosher hot stuff. Main point: the kosher on bottom remains hot. Hakol aser, everything's prohibited because tata gover ala elyon, the below overpowers the above, and heats it up at shemaflit betachton to the point that it will exfoliate completely into the lower. So the dominating temperature is determined by the item on the bottom, and in the case that we just described, the item on the below is kosher and hot, and therefore something forbidden that falls into it, whether hot or cold, because the bottom one is hot, it's going to absorb all that flavor from the heat, from the non-kosher item above it.
Nice mistake here.
Yes, I told him that. Let's see, it says the opposite. Should be switched around. Aval, however, ima elyon cham, if the one above is hot, the one below is cold, so kosher below, cold, non-kosher above, falls down hot. So tata gabar, the below powers, which means the cold is now overpowering the heat. So instead of the non-kosher above heating up the cold below is cooling down the heat one above. Because tata gavar. And therefore, in oiser ella kadei klipa. In the time it takes for the one below to like cool the one on top to close its pores, it still absorbs something. Only a surface layer. Even if the above is hot, even if the forbidden item above is hot, the one below, which is cold, works to close the pores of the one above it because it is the one that overpowers, and therefore only in that time it absorbs the klipa. And you just
shows
peel.
Cold.
Sorry?
It says cold is the same.
In which case you would rinse it off.
Exactly. So I'm saying here it says it also needs to be shaved.
What?
I'm saying it's a mistake. This is an
cold,
equal sign.
It only has to be.
This should be not equal. That should be not equal sign.
And cold.
It should be a not equal sign.
If it's cold and cold, it should be rinsed off.
It should be rinsed off. Yes, 100%. Exactly what we just said before.
Yeah. No, cold and cold should be rinsed off. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I'm saying it's another mistake.
There's multiple mistakes I've seen that thing, but whatever.
Okay. You get a prize. You get like 5 mistakes. You get like
You get a point on your test.
Extra points on your test. Sorry. You get. Oh no way! Wow.
They stopped.
Finding too many mistakes. Okay, 1 second. Is that correct? Cold and cold, rinse off. Yeah, right. That's all there is.
No,
it was a thing. Yeah, but now there's probably not mistakes.
Yeah, you do it enough times.
It was like rules.
Yeah. Okay.
Has to be like big.
That seems like another mistake.
Like
all right. Sorry.
I'm doing again. It's a spelling mistake.
Yeah. Okay, says that all of this Mairi is applicable. Loi Mairi Ella is only applicable when B'chaim Kli Rishon, when the heat on the body, the one in the if the heat of the forbidden, which is above coming down, is heat that was from a Kli Rishon. Going, for example, Miyache Siman as soon as he took the forbidden item off the fire, Maniche Maheter, he puts it together with the kosher. But if the non-kosher was put into a klisheni first, and then the the permitted stuff, the heter, is put with it, oil of or on it. So even if the one below is non-kosher and hot, but it's hot from a klisheni, it doesn't cause any prohibition. The klisheni commotion is bar, because klisheni doesn't cause prohibition at all, as we said before.
Why is the Rashal so strict?
As opposed to the Rashal, which says, I'm sorry, klisheni does cook as long as Yatzal is boy. Actually, because the Rashal is kind of following Shlomo's logic. It's Yatzal is boy, cooks. Finished.
But it's a food. It's
okay, but it's so hot. It causes
a hot piece of chicken on a cold dairy plate, and you're saying it's gonna absorb, it's gonna pull out the dairy through the thing.
The Rashal even goes further. That if you're talking about a solid item,
surface layer?
If you're talking about a solid item, it's always considered klishation, which we actually rule that way.
You mean a solid piece of food?
Yeah. Klishation, changing temperature from klishation to klishation is only when the food item is relying on the pot to be held up.
Right.
Like liquidy. But if it's a solid, it's not relying on the pot to be held up. It has its own self-contained klishation status. And even if you move it from one plate to another, it still remains klishation.
So that's why it's saying.
That's another element to the Rashal that's important to remember. Yeah.
I was gonna say that, but like technically, the things that could transfer meat, like meat, doesn't retain that kind of heat. It's not like potato or like these kind of like foods that can retain.
Okay, meat. It may not retain that kind of level of heat, but it's not them moving from one plate to another that's cooling it down. It's time. Which means it itself is really a kludishan. It's just a faster cooling kludishan.
The time happens to be the second you pull it off of anything.
Right. So
it's already.
So maybe a faster cooling kludishan, but still a kludishan the whole way.
I understand.
That's the way he understands it.
I could have a.
Let's take the logic of the Tosis we said before. The walls is what's retaining its heat, right. And now that we switched walls, it's cooling it.
Right.
That's not true steak. Here. The steak is cooling because of time, but it's not cooling because it interacted with other.
It just never gets that hop though. Like even if you put it into a vessel at 600 Fahrenheit, pull it out.
Different issue. But it's still that's a kludishan. So long as it's above Yatzal boy, it's a kludishan.
But it's not above Yatzal as well. You can pull out a piece of meat from a burning hot oven or thing.
Okay, so then Ashal would agree. It's fine.
And you can grab it with your hand.
So that I don't think you can do that right away, but in a few minutes you can. A few minutes later, you can.
Seconds, as long as it's away from this.
Maybe.
What's hot is the thing.
So if that's the case, and then Ashal will concede. It's not Yatzal, but it's not Kedushin anymore.
Okay.
His argument is it's only Kedushin so long as it's Yatzal. But a better example of it is a glob of rice.
That's hot.
That's hot.
No,
it would remain hot.
That's hot.
It would remain hot. Move it from plate to plate to plate.
Potato, rice, anything, you can burn yourself.
Right. So he would say it's Kedushin all the way through, as long as it retains that.
My issue is like the meat itself doesn't retain heat so much. I've held meat right after you pulled it out of the thing, almost,
and it gets cold.
It's cold.
Yeah,
it's not cold. But
okay, so if it's not cold, then the Rashal would agree that's cold.
Okay.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's it. Perfect. I got it. So that's why it'd be okay. I just want to make sure in case this ever does happen.
But also solid, it'll keep its temperature a lot longer, right? So that's also why.
Say again?
If the solid's going to keep its temperature, right? A liquid would cool.
Yeah, but the Vart is, it's not the question of Kedushin is not a question of how long it keeps its heat.
Yeah.
It's a question of whether it itself is an agent of preserving heat,
yeah.
And if it is, so long as it's above Yatzal, but it's Kedushin, even if it happens to be getting cold very fast. Right? Let me put it this way: you take a Kedushin, you put it into the fridge, you take it out, and still Yatzal, but is it a Kedushin or not?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
yeah,
it's a Kedushin.
Yeah.
It just happens to have been cooling down faster, but it was working to preserve heat, so it's a Kedushin. Same thing with your steak.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
But you're right. If it does become so low, it's like Yatzal, but then Rashal will agree. It's not Yatzal anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, now comes that Ramon says after.
Sorry. So I understand. Practically, if it happens, we're okay.
Yeah. Okay. That's how hot it is. What?
Some places that happen pretty fast.
Where it cools down. That's what he's saying.
No,
the steak cools down very quickly. That's his point. Pots can also cool down that quickly.
No. That I would not go. That I would not say.
Boiling pot of water, take it off the stove. How long does it take to cool down? A long time.
It's cold enough.
No.
If you put it outside in your freezer outside, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not that crazy.
No, you're right, but it's still a clean. So long as it's above the outside, it's still cleanish, no matter how fast it happens to be cooling down. Is the point. Okay, let's go back to
yeah.
Then if you put kosher and non-kosher next to each other, not on top or on bottom, but next to each other. If they are both hot at the level, both the kosher and the non-kosher are both hot at the level of a kludishin. Hakol aser, everything's forbidden. Transfer goes all the way. Now, what happens if one's cold and one's hot? they're side to side, so you can't say that one overpowers the other. Usually, tatog over the one below overpowers, but here they're side to side. So it says that let's break it down like this. If the cold one is the permissible and it's touching a hot non-kosher, so at a clip of makom shnaga, you only have to peel off the surface layer of where it touched. Yeah.
Wait.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Where are you holding?
I'm holding middle of the Ramah in Gimel.
Page
Yeah.
99.
So which would imply, right, that what if the permissible is hot and it's touching a cold non-kosher, what would happen then?
They're side by side.
Side by side, yeah.
Absorb.
Sorry?
It absorb.
It absorbs because the heat draws the flavor in. But if the permissible is cold and the forbidden is hot, it only absorbs to the surface layer and you can peel it off and you're good to go. Yeah, that's what he says here.
Okay.
Correct? Look at my summary, not visualization, the summaries. Tell me if that's correct.
Summary. No one has
Summaries. No one has summaries here?
No one has summaries here.
You have the summary, no?
On Taruvas.
Mine's in my car, but
Oh, you have Kofei summaries. Thank you. Let's see. Sif Gimel. Okay, the hand recoils, we said. Yeah, Paz says that. That's what she said. Or the wrong way. Which read is Gimel?
are they not in there?
I'll go this
No,
way.
they
No, I'm going to go the other way. Near each other. They're man shachol, that if they are both hot, everything becomes forbidden. But if one is hot and one is cold, everything is considered cold. And the halach is when the bottom is cold. And the permitted is forbidden in the surface layer. But there's, well, you only said that with respect to if the permissible is cold. Where is the shach?
This picture shows that it's no matter what, if there's one cold, one hot.
And it's only surface layer.
Only surface layer. That's what this picture shows. That's what I was asking for
Yeah,
clarification.
yeah. Okay.
This way it makes the exam a little more challenging.
No, you're right. I think you're right. But the Rashal, that forbidden food is hot. It forbids the entirety of the permitted food.
No, they're both hot for sure.
No, and the Rashal is going to be strict, right?
Or the shell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The halacha is if foods touch each other with the heat of Kedushin, everything should be forbidden if there is great martelos. And if they touch with great heat of Klisheni, you should be lenient and the world of the food becomes forbidden to the surface layer. It doesn't give the situation of what happens if one is caught, one is cold.
Yeah, I don't think we translated it correctly. Vima echad soinen aheter tzerf klipa. If what?
Oh, you're right. If any of them are cold, you only need. You're right.
Just one of them. It doesn't matter which one.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you. I translated it wrong. Vima echad soinen. If one of them is cold, doesn't matter which one.
Yeah.
I had to tell a clip of the permitted one. Only surface layer. You're right. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Okay, you're right. Thank you for that correction.
Fine.
Thank you very much, Aaron. All right.
Sorry.
If either of them are cold when it's touching, only surface layer.
Yeah.
According
to the Rama.
Yes, according to the mother, Hashal is more strict when the prohibited is hot.
Yeah.
All
right.
right. It says it makes the difference between the lean.
Well, we don't treat difference.
Yeah.
We don't make a difference between yeah. Okay.
Well, the Rama. But the
Make a
Rama doesn't.
No, Hashal is one that introduced that. I think.
Yeah, he says it. The Taz, right?
Yeah, they quote from the Hashal. Okay. Isser she'enicha b'kli heter. Prohibited food that was put onto a kosher plate. Or the other way around. A kosher food put on a non-kosher plate. I mean, you apply the same standard of the lower one overpowers. That is, if it's a hot plate, or then the heat goes upward and cooks the food. If it's a cold plate, then the heat only goes down into the plate surface layer. As it would be with two pieces of meat. Okay, see Siman Tzaddik Dalet. Okay, we'll get to the knife issue in Tzaddik Dalet. Also, so that's with respect to plates. The plates also the same plates, vessels have the same din law of Tatar Gavar.
It says we should be strict with solid food and liquid.
Sorry?
Strict with solid.
We said that already because solid food's always Kedushin. Right? That's what we said. Solid food's always Kedushin. That was the Rashal's Humrah. Okay, asalaris mikli sheish by shuman kosher it's forbidden to pour out of a vessel that has kosher fat, l'ner dolok, to a flame to a candle that is burning, because now a sheikh chelev, which has forbidden fat, or shuman isser, or other forbidden fats, because now there's two different ways of understanding it, but let's just use one way of understanding it, which is if it's the stream, because it's a liquid, the bottom overpowers. This bottom is hot, melted. It's not even melted. It's actually just straight up liquidy fat that's being used as your oil. Yeah, you're using whale oil for the fun of it, and you pour out kosher oil into that
mixture.
The stream is attached, overpowers, and you problemize your oil up here.
So if it was cold, like the light candle wasn't lit yet,
then it's fine.
No issue.
It's near dolok. So we have a discussion whether it's the steam that's the issue or the nitzuk, the fact that there's a stream.
No, but I'm trying to say it's
right.
Cold.
One opinion says there's a stream. Right. Shach says mishum hevel. Right. Whereas
here
the Ramah the Taz says because that's a plug over machaber benitzuk. Right.
It's forbidden.
The Shach does not argue if the reason is because of steam or the reason is because of the stream that's still attached.
The next page. It's forbidden, even if the bottom is cold.
Where does it say that?
Because it says the lower melts.
The bottom is hot.
The top is hot.
Top is hot.
And the bottom
okay,
is
well,
cold.
you get to that yet. But even now, the top is hot and the bottom is cold. Yes, if the whole thing becomes liquid, yes. Because then, what's it? No. Say it again.
It says if the top is hot and the bottom is cold, because the top is melting the bottom, it makes everything forbidden.
Yeah, that's the Taz. That's the Taz.
Okay.
Taz adds that, yes. Kosmedarka Moshe, yeah, you're right. Taz adds that. Okay. Taz adds. Yeah, very good. Thank you. Sorry. But anyway, the David in Lochish, in past and post factum, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
That's what the end was. Okay, Dalit. Dalit, the Medvar Mamorim, when is this true? When do we say that what? When do we say that when the kosher, when a non-kosher which falls into a kosher, everything becomes forbidden if it falls into sorry, back to the beginning of Gimel, where non-kosher falls into kosher. And if it's in a Klidishin, everything is forbidden. When do we say that? When it falls into a cooked stew, because the liquid that's in the stew, extends, diffuses the flavor of the prohibited, and mixes it into the entire stew. Aval, Isser. But if you don't have a pot with a stew and a flavor and liquid, it's only a solid, hot piece of meat. It's grilled. It's baked, but there's no liquid, there's no stew that would cause a diffusion of flavor throughout. Then the halacha is like this: Isser, something that's prohibited. Bein cham, bein kar, whether it's hot, whether it's cold. Shenaf la'atzali, she'etz al'ej, that falls onto a grilled piece of kosher meat. It's by the fire. So now there's no liquid that would make the flavor transfer all around. It's only contact that makes the flavor transfer. And therefore, it only prohibits the steak below it to the amount of that which is removability, we'll call it, which we said was which is about as thick as a little finger. Yeah, we're going to see soon the difference between fatty and not fatty. This is where that comes in. But at the moment, we're making the point that if there's no liquid to cause transference, right? What's the principle? The halachic principle is flavor doesn't go from one piece to another without some sort of gravy in between to be an agency of conduct, a conduit to conduct that flavor to go from one thing to the next. So assuming in the case is the liquid here, non-kosher falls on top of kosher, kosher is hot, only prohibits because of the heat that's diffusing upward that absorbs a little bit. So it's only as much as a finger width. Therefore, if you grilled, you roasted, a full goat or a full, not a full goat, a full yerech, a full thigh, big gidoy, and the gid hanosh is still in the thigh. Or if you grilled kosher and non-kosher meat together, the noga is not touching each other. All you need to do is remove a finger amount near the gid hanosha, and the rest of the meat is fine. And therefore, likewise, take off a finger width of the kosher meat from the area where it touched the non-kosher meat. Everything's good. Likewise, isur al chaticha shebekadera sheichutz l'roita. This takes us back to tzaddik beis. If a piece of non-kosher meat falls onto a piece of kosher meat that is in your stew, but that piece of meat that's in your stew is above the line of the liquid, right? Your liquid's only halfway up, and you have meat going higher, and this non-kosher piece of meat fell and landed on a piece of meat that's completely out of the liquid, right? The loy near a kadera, and you didn't mix the pot, so you didn't allow, or you weren't quick enough to make sure that the non-kosher flavor is suffused throughout the whole pot. The loy kisa, you didn't cover it. So now the only agency of transference is contact, and for contact, all you need to do is remove a finger layer. If it's in the actual liquid, Rashi according to Rashi, pula, it's got to be completely inside the liquid. And according to the Taisvis, even if it's partially within the liquid, this gets back to tzaddik beis, the machlekes, whether or not food that is partially in the stew and partially out of the stew, does it take on the law of the stew, or does it take on the law that's above the stew? But either way, let's assume here, for the purpose of this case, that it's in the stew. Or if it fell into a piece of meat that's completely or if it fell completely out of the stew, but veneer, but you mixed it all in, like kisakaderi, you covered it, which renders the entire thing as one big mixture. The flavor suffuses, diffuses, and goes everywhere. And therefore, either everything's forbidden, or you have 60 to the ratio to permit it. But otherwise, the flavor is everywhere and everything's prohibited. Right? This parallels what we learned in tzaddik beis. Yes.
You just go over the Ramah.
Which Ramah, we didn't get to Ramah yet. The Ramah, which Ramah? We're still machab by Mdalit. Yeah. Now we get to Hay. Yeah. So we'll read Hay, and then we'll continue on Sunday. Hey, sorry again? We didn't get to Vav yet. We're still doing Hay.
I know, I'm saying we should also do Vav.
Yeah, it's pretty big. It's pretty big.
Hay is big one. Vav is very small, but you're okay.
Same topic.
The whole thing really is, but yeah.
I say it's design.
Okay. Hey, what?
Design as well.
I don't know.
When is this true? When do I say that point of contact is the only factor, and therefore all you need to do is remove a thumb or a finger with the yerech and gid. When you're talking about a thigh together with the gid hanosh that's inside of it, been the light, namely davar kachosh, where it's not fatty, it's lean. It doesn't have any liquid that would be a diffusing agency, and therefore the only issue is contact. And when the only issue is contact, a finger's worth is enough to remove. But if it's fatty, you've roasted a fatty goat with its non-kosher fats that are in it. Not all fats in meat are prohibited, but some fats are. And in this case, you did the whole thing, so part of it is non-kosher fat that's in there. Now it's fatty. So which means that there's not just contact between the various different parts of the animal that's causing diffusing of flavor, but the actual liquid of the fat that's causing diffusing of flavor throughout. And therefore, and therefore, if the entirety of the goat is not 60 times the amount of the fat that is in there that's forbidden, you can't even eat the tip of the ear of that goat, considering that it's fat, the flavor diffuses throughout the entire goat. But if it's a lean piece, it's lean meat. Even if you don't have 60 to the ratio of against all the fat that's in there, against all the forbidden fat, non-fatty fat. Yeah. The only part that's prohibited is that which came in contact with the non-fatty fat that's non-kosher, and therefore you only have to remove a finger width. Because chelev, fat, which is in a lean animal, is by nature lean. We have one word for both. Fat is literally the part of the animal that's fatty, and we also use fat to describe something that's liquidy, juicy. If you want to change it into two, let's change it to two. We'll call it juicy versus fatty versus fat. So if it's a juicy piece of meat, or if it's a lean piece of meat, it's not juicy, then the fat too will also be not juicy. And therefore, the only issue is, it doesn't diffuse. Now, if the non-kosher meat is lean, and the kosher meat that's grilled with it is shamina, is juicy, then that will cause diffusion, because the liquid that's in the kosher meat is enough to draw the flavor out of the non-kosher meat. So the liquid doesn't have to stem from the non-kosher meat to cause diffusion. Even if the liquid stems from the kosher meat, it can cause diffusion of the non-kosher meat that's next to it. Yeah. Anything that causes diffusion, that falls onto something that falls onto a kosher grilled piece of meat, and you know the point of contact. So even though the piece of meat is 60 times the amount of whatever it might have absorbed in the non-kosher, but because you know the point of contact, you need to remove that spot, even though, in essence, you've nullified the flavor by 60. Now comes the Rambam. First of all, he qualifies and says, if anything that's cooked without liquid, which is basically what we would call roasted, or maybe fried, let's say, but not fried in oil, fried with just enough oil to make it not stick. Yeah. Sorry?
Air frying.
Air frying for sure. There's no liquid. Or if it's baked, same law as grilling. The point is, it wasn't cooked in a liquid, in a stew. That's number one. Qualifying what the word that when we say tzali, grilled here, we don't mean grilled specifically. We mean any type of cooking that doesn't include a liquid being contained in a vessel. That's what we mean. Any cooking that doesn't have liquid contained in a vessel. Number one. Now comes the main point. The famous Ramah. And those that say, we have no idea the exact line that differentiates between that which is considered juicy or not juicy, lean or fatty. And therefore, we're going to prohibit any point of contact between any two pieces of meat, unless you have 60 to the ratio of the kosher against the non-kosher. And therefore, even if there is 60 kosher to the ratio of non-kosher, you would still need to remove the point of contact, because again, we're treating it as if it's fatty. And this is our custom here in Ashkenaz.
You need the 60 and you're moving the centimeters.
And you're removing the point of contact. Just like the Shulchan Aruch, the Machaber said that with respect to fatty food.
No, but he said for fatty food, even if there is 60, it's not good.
Who? The Shulchan Aruch?
No, sorry, no, you're right.
Just what the Shulchan Aruch said with respect to fatty food, that Ramah is saying with respect to non-fatty food. Right. Same thing. The same that Ramah said with respect to fatty food.
Yes.
That contact causes full diffusion. And if it's 60 to the ratio, you'd have to remove the point of contact. And the Ramah was saying about say the same thing about non-fatty. That point of contact has to be removed. Plus, you need 60 in the ratio. Yeah. Now, this is only true with respect to chaylev, fat in an animal, or any other prohibited type of food, which is capable of even being liquidy. And if it's capable of being liquidy, then we say, I don't know the difference between juicy and lean. 1 second. But if it's something that's prohibited that is not capable of being juicy, like chametz on Pesach, and therefore it's definitely lean, and I can't even apply the issue of, I don't know the line between lean and fatty. There is no fatty, it's just lean. Then we only prohibit the point of contact, and you got to remove the thumb because there's no possibility of any diffusion of flavor. What do you want to say?
I want to say here it says the machaber for
Yeah.
fatty food. It says entirely forbidden,
If it's not 60 to the ratio.
and even if there is 60,
Even if, now, stop, period. Now, even if there is 60, which means it's kosher, you still need to remove the point of contact. Missing
don't
some
like the
periods and
wording.
commas.
I don't like the wording. It should say unless whatever.
Actual list of mistakes.
Okay.
Okay. Since he said vav, vav. Davar shishit before but sully.
You have to take your test a second time.
Yeah. They said they're going to send me. I spoke to them already, but they're going to send me the test, and I'm going to read through it to make sure that it matches what we learned in our classes. No, seriously, otherwise, what's the match what we learned? And then there's gonna be sorry.
You want me to help you review?
Okay, Vav, since you asked. Davar shishit papua but sully, something that's capable of causing diffusion in grilling. The former's hot one was cold. Hatacht and goiver, the one below, overpowers. As is the principle. Yeah, therefore, if something hot fell on top of something that's cold, a grilled piece of hot meat that falls, something cold that falls on top of it, it only causes a surface layer to be prohibited. And
Which one's the prohibited one in this case? The hot and cold.
If the bottom one is prohibited and
no, the bottom is cold, the top is hot.
The bottom is cold and the top is hot.
Then you only do a surface layer.
I don't think it would matter which one's the prohibited, which one's the
No,
permitted.
it doesn't.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
If the bottom one is the one that's hot, it causes flavor transfer. The bottom one's cold, it only causes a surface layer. Right? Sorry? For touching, yes.
They're just in the same oven. There's two racks.
Then we get to the steam issue, which we spoke about already,
And
on
then
the base.
and for the heat.
Then we get to the
same
steam
thing as
issue.
both
Sorry?
of them. Saying when the bottom is hot,
Yeah.
it's the same issue as before, just mechaber and ramah. If there's 60 times for the ramah, and if it's fatty or lean,
Correct,
it's the same thing.
Yeah, but if cold falls on something hot, and aim beheter, if you don't have 60 in the ratio of, you don't have 60 in the permitted to the ratio of that which is forbidden, everything is forbidden because the one on bottom is hot, and that causes full diffusion. Okay, there was our run through. And so, God willing, we will finish this on Sunday. Hopefully. Strive for all your help. Group effort. I like it.
What's up?
Next
Everybody's
Sunday?
help.
Sunday?
Sunday, God willing, yeah.